All right, let's get started. Wait 1 second. 1 second. I always think I'm prepared and then I'm not. Give me a second. Give me a second. There we go. I got to get rid of these headphones because if you haven't noticed, they get in the way and they don't look good. So, speaking of looking good, I wanted to wear this vest tonight because it's Davos Day. Whenever I think of the Davos, the World Economic Forum, I always think about like Jamie Dimon being interviewed by, I don't know, Becky Quick or somebody like that. I guess she's not really a big wig at CNBC anymore, but like somebody like that. And Jamie Dimon's got like a parka on. It's like you never really see a Wall Street guy wearing like a huge Canada Goose jacket or something. And they're outside and the mountains are behind them and they're just talking about economic policy. How did they even find Davos to be a place? Like, how did Davos become the place where everyone goes to talk about finance? Does anybody know that? I need to find that out. Okay, so I want to talk about, yes, Davos. I want to talk about Greenland. I don't want to talk for too long. I came on here the other night and I said I was going to stay for half an hour, and I stayed for like an hour and a half, which there'll be plenty of nights to do, but tonight's not that night. I want to be brief. I want to be concise. I want to get my point across. So Trump goes to Davos, which is basically the mecca of the globalists. So all the global elite are there, all the bankers, all the government officials, all the brainiacs who've been wrong about everything for the last 20 years are there. Now, mind you, there are some really smart people there, like the aforementioned Jamie Dimon. I was quite impressed actually with the NATO guy. I forget his name, but I was impressed with him. So this isn't me just being glib and saying, there's just a bunch of idiots there. Clearly, these people are very successful, very smart, especially the ones in business and, of course, the ones in politics and government too, because they've somehow gotten to that level. So Trump goes there, and Trump is basically the big nationalist there. Trump is the one who's going to go tell them they're all full of crap and everything they believe in is wrong, and that they've screwed up the world and he's here to fix it, which is pretty much true. So his speech was as expected. I think kind of the handcuffs or the chains are off for Trump because he's in his second term now and he's probably kind of thinking, I'm just going to let it fly. And he goes and says about Canada, hey, we protect you, Canada. You exist. You couldn't exist without us. And he says, think about that next time you make a speech like that, Mark, talking about Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada. So Trump was in fine form. But the big news of the day is that there is a framework for a deal in Greenland. Now, I am not going to talk anything about the actual deal because we don't know what the deal is right now. We don't really know if there is even really a deal. There is a deal, but I can't comment on it because I don't know the specifics. But I do want to talk about Trump's strategy because it seems to me, and I hate to come on here and say the same thing over and over again, but it seems like it's been a decade now that Trump has been on the scene, and people still don't really understand him. And I don't know why, because he has pretty much the same playbook every time. His negotiating style and his negotiating tactics and method and strategy is pretty much the same every time. It always goes like this. And all you need to do is go read The Art of the Deal. All world leaders, it should be required reading for all of them and their staff, and the media, it should be required reading for. But of course, the media doesn't want to learn. They just want to call Trump Hitler and blah blah blah. So every time Trump goes into a negotiation, and he did this in his real estate life long before politics, and he does the same thing now. He begins with a radical offer. He begins the negotiation with way, way, way more than he expects to get. And if he gets what he throws out there, that's what he gets, and all's good. So he'll start over here with something extreme or something that he really wants, and then he'll work his way back. The other side will feel like they're giving something, they're giving something up, while at the same time, the other side will also feel like they're getting something as well. That's the goal. The goal is for Trump to get what he wants, and for the other side to feel like they got something and they weren't completely humiliated either. And it's win-win for everybody. So Trump starts talking about Greenland. Now, in honor of Scott Adams, excuse me, in honor of Scott Adams, the late Scott Adams, who passed away 1 week ago today, or yesterday, I guess it was, we must first talk about the persuasion skill that Trump has. He did not start off this negotiation about Greenland by saying, we would like to have Greenland. We are interested in Greenland. He said, we need Greenland. So basically, it's we're going to get it one way or the other because we need it. It's necessary. We're America. If we want something, we're going to get it. And then he said, not to quote, but basically, we'll do whatever we have to do to get it. And then, of course, they ask him his military involvement off the table. And he says, no, of course not. Everything is on the table. So then, predictably, the media freaks out and says, Trump's going to invade Greenland, going to use the military against a NATO ally. World War III is beginning. And of course, Europe goes through this dumb exercise of sending like 10 troops there. There is a reason why he began with that, once again, radical offer. He started off with the threat to invade. Now, what does the threat to invade do? Well, number one, it's an extreme offer. It's not something that's likely going to happen. So it gives him lots of room to sort of walk off the ledge on that idea, which he did today. But what it also does, and because Trump is a little bit unpredictable, and I'm talking now about how his strategy and negotiation, it has actually become predictable. But what is unpredictable about him is that he may walk away from the table. He may go all in. You never really know what he's going to do throughout. So keeping the military option on the table makes Denmark and the rest of Europe, the rest of NATO, understand that, hey, he's serious about this. And because Trump is a little bit crazy, and it's good to be a little bit crazy, because there's a little bit of them, and Trump has talked about this before, there's a little bit of them in their minds that says, he might do it. He might do it. Maybe we should figure things out here. So the media is totally, I cannot believe they still have not got it. I think they know, but they just like to pump up this fake narrative about invasion. And I hear people talking today, wow, well, Trump has walked away from the idea of invading Greenland. Did you actually think that was going to happen? I mean, if it happened, it would be kind of interesting. I'd be surprised, yes. But again, there's a little bit of you that thinks it might happen. But really, realistically, nobody really thought that was going to happen. Anybody who has watched Trump operate knows that was never going to happen. What was going to happen is that he was going to walk away from that idea, but he was going to want some kind of concession. He was going to want something else. Now, what that something else is, we don't know yet. There's talk of military bases. There's talk of some area from Greenland being American now. We don't know the details again, so I can't comment on the details, whether the U.S. got a good deal here, whether it was worth it or anything like that. But there are in my mind, three main reasons why the U.S. should want Greenland and why the Trump policy of getting Greenland should be supported. Number one is the military reason. You have China, you have Russia. Geographically, it's a strategic area. Number two is economically. We can go into everything Greenland has, rare earth, minerals, blah, blah, blah. It is a good economic deal for the United States. But casting those two aside for now, because we don't yet know what's in the deal, so we don't know if in fact they are getting any advantage militarily or economically. But there is a third aspect, which I think is very important, and it's psychologically. And you might brush that off and say, what the heck, who cares psychologically? What does that even mean? What it means is that the United States of America, referred to as the world superpower or the world hegemon. But for all that time, or most of that time, even though America has been referred to as a superpower, it does not conduct itself in that way. It does not take land. It does not invade countries for its own self-interest. And I know people could go on and they could say, oh, Iraq was about oil, et cetera, et cetera. But finally, the United States has a leader, Trump, who believes America is a superpower and believes that America should use that leverage as a superpower to get what it wants. And if that means invading, which again, they weren't going to do, but if that means taking Greenland just because we want it, that's what Trump believes. He still has the real estate developer mindset where I want the property, I'm going to get it. I don't care how, we're going to get it. And so now the United States is finally, number one, acting like a superpower in that it wants to expand once again. And that's what empires do. And let's be real, the United States of America, yes, it's a republic, but it is an empire. And if an empire is expanding, it's contracting. And if it's contracting, it's not thriving and it's not surviving, and it will not survive for much longer. It needs to continue to expand. Now, how that manifests itself is a different story. But manifest destiny is a real idea, and Trump believes in it, even if he doesn't give it the same title. Psychologically, if the United States takes Greenland, what message does that send to the rest of the world? Now, you can ask the Canadians or the Europeans what they think, and they'll say, well, the United States is being a bully and blah, blah, blah. What they're really trying to say is that America is flexing its muscle. America, the world, not just talking about it, that they don't only have soft power, but they have hard power as well. And they have for many years, and we have for many years, exercised that power in the wrong ways, getting bogged down in endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Middle East, conflicts that we shouldn't be in, instead of using our military force and power for our own self-interests. And when you look at what happened in Venezuela and you look at what's happening now in Greenland, the United States is finally starting to act in its own self-interest. Now, think for a second about NATO. We are constantly hearing now that Trump and the US is destroying NATO. Let me just say something about that before we keep talking about the Greenland thing. The idea that the United States is destroying NATO, let's take a look at what's actually going on with NATO. NATO is an arrangement of nations who made an agreement, amongst others, to contribute a certain percentage of their GDP, their total gross domestic product, everything the country produces. All the NATO nations agreed we are all going to contribute, I believe it was 3%, 3 or 4% of our GDP to defense, because that's the only way it can work. The only way NATO works is if everyone is in it together. The whole point is if one nation gets attacked, all the rest will come to its aid. Attacked and the rest cannot come to its aid because they're not equipped to do so. What even is the point? Furthermore, if there's one nation who's carrying most of the burden, if not almost all of the burden, i.e. the United States, then who really is destroying NATO? America comes along, Trump comes along, and says, wait a second, for many years, we have been contributing 4 or 5% of our GDP toward defense, maybe more, 6, 7. And all the other nations here in NATO, in the NATO alliance, have been contributing 1%, 2%, if that. And yet you all want to lecture the United States of America on you're destroying NATO. NATO has already been destroyed because you are delinquent on your bills. You're not paying your bills. You're not living up to your end of the bargain. So it is so ironic and just so disgusting and it's actually hilarious to hear these nations try and claim the United States is the one bullying. No, the United States finally just said, hey, we've had enough paying for everybody else. You guys have been mooching off us. You guys depend on our defense. You guys depend on our military spending and our protecting you. You are literally all vassal states, especially Canada. And Canadians and Europeans will be the first ones to say, look at those dumb Americans spending all that money on the military. We spend our money on healthcare and infrastructure and social programs. Well, yeah, it must be nice not having to, protect the Western world. There's a reason U.S. bases are all over the place. There's a reason the U.S. has naval power and naval capabilities and military capabilities as a whole all over the Western world. It's because if the United States wasn't doing that, it would leave all of the NATO nations extremely vulnerable. And now you have people in Canada going, elbows up if they invade, which is another crazy thing. The idea that the United States would invade Canada is just off the charts crazy. And it actually shows that it's not Trump who's the crazy one. It's actually these people who are the crazy ones. But that's a whole other story. So think about NATO. And the NATO head, I forget his name, said as much today. He said, if it were not for Donald Trump, NATO would be in shambles. So this whole idea that NATO is over because of Trump, it's actually the complete opposite. It's the opposite. Trump is the one saving NATO. But aside from all that, talking about Greenland, America, i.e. Trump, is finally saying enough is enough. For many years, we have been, to use Trump's term, the suckers. For many years, America has been the one, okay, well, if we have to fund the Ukraine war, billions of dollars, we'll do it. We know you won't do it. So just whatever, just stay over there and complain about whatever happens. And you can contribute a little bit, sure, okay, if it makes you happy. To feel like you're contributing. But when really we know the US is the one who's really holding this all together here, which is why Zelensky comes begging to the White House for money and he doesn't go to Ottawa or Brussels or wherever else or London. He comes here. So America is kind of done with subsidizing everybody else economically, militarily. And it would be one thing if America were doing this and they were getting some kind of gratitude and thanks for it. But not only do they not get thanks, and not only do we not get thanks for it, they spit at us for it. They mock us. All they do is shit talk us when we're the ones protecting them. And what Trump said today about Canada was absolutely correct. And of course, he's saying it in a trollful way, but what he said is absolutely correct. Canada can only live because of the United States. Canada has little to no military power at all. I was watching a clip on X, and it was the CBC, which is very, very liberal Canadian government-owned broadcasting. And I just thought, oh, let's just see how this is playing there. Because a lot of today had to do not just with the European countries, but there was the speech from Mark Carney yesterday, and he's the darling of the globalists. So he's the most popular man at Davos. But, you see Trump today and you think, oh, well, wait, no, Trump's the most popular guy. They may disagree with him and they may hate him, but they want to know what he has to say. So when it comes to the Canada US dynamic, it's absolutely true that Canada exists and has security because the United States underwrites that security. And a lot of today had to do with Trump snapping back, snipping back, whatever you want to say, at not just the Canadians, but Europe as a whole, because it's the same attitude all the way across. So America is finally saying, you know what? We've spent a lot of years holding our nose. We've spent a lot of years taking undue criticism from people who were not lifting a finger to help us. And we're done with that. And for Trump and the United States to be labeled a bully for that is like, it's actually the opposite. But again, psychologically, for the United States to take Greenland, that would be a huge moral, psychological victory. Why? Because it shows the United States is growing. It's symbolic. Even if Greenland had no rare earth or minerals or military, strategic, geopolitical importance, the whole idea that America is moving across a new frontier is very, very powerful. And it shows that empires still do exist. And this idea that the world is this kind of cooperative group of NATO and this and that. No, no. The world is made up of strong nations and weak nations. The world is made up of nations that have military, that have guns and bombs and tanks, and ones that don't. The world is made up of nations that have money, that are rich and prosperous, and ones that aren't. And the ones that are powerful militarily and economically, they take advantage of that. China doesn't blink for a second at the opportunity to take more land, to take more money, to get richer and richer and bigger. Russia does not blink at the opportunity, as we saw, to expand. Nations like Russia and China understand expansion. For some reason, the United States, even though it is the most powerful nation on earth, has not been acting like it. But now it has a leader who wants to use American military might and American economic might, which, by the way, the United States does have economic might. And for all this talk about, well, the tariff, and I saw somebody say this at Davos, the tariffs are actually paid by the American consumer, so it hasn't really been too good for them. Yeah, we know how the tariffs work. That's not the point. The tariffs are a threat and a negotiating tactic because the other nations know without the trade agreement, without the free flow of goods across the border, this whole relationship isn't going to work. And in many cases, these nations need the United States more than the United States needs them. So Trump obviously has been using tariffs as a negotiating tactic. He uses tariffs. And look, many people are saying, well, Trump backed off. Again, going back to how I started the stream, Trump does the same thing every time. He starts off with a radical, extreme offer. I heard someone use the metaphor, he throws a grenade into the room and everyone goes crazy. And then everyone calms down and comes to the table and talks. That has been his strategy all along. The United States of America is no longer going to act like a mediocre nation when it's not. It is a superpower. Tariffs for economic war. And anything we need for military war, actual kinetic war, The world must be put on notice. America is no longer going to take everyone else's side. It's going to start taking its own side. Finally, finally, China acts in its own interests. Russia acts in its own interests. And it is no surprise or no coincidence. And I used to talk about this during the elections, both 2016, 2020, 2024, when people used to say, well, Trump, I just wish he was a little bit more nicer, not as extreme, not as harsh, not as much of a bully. And I used to say to these people, look, and this doesn't really work, but in terms of changing their minds, there are basically 4 or 5 powerful nations in the world. One is Russia, run by Putin, who is an absolute savage. The other is China, run by Xi, who is an absolute savage. India, run by Modi, another savage, but maybe not as much. And we could go down the list of some others. You could even maybe put Israel in there. Why do you not want someone like that as president of the United States? If he has to go up against and negotiate with Putin and Xi, why do you want somebody who is way weaker than those two people? Why not have the person who is like them representing you? But that's an entirely different argument. So the main point is, and I won't go on for too much longer, and I'll probably try and read some comments if there are any. The main point is we don't yet know what's in the Greenland deal. So I can't come on here and say, this is a great deal for America. Trump has done it again. So the 3 main reasons you want a deal are economic, military, or I guess you could say geopolitical. Economic, geopolitical, and psychological. Right now, I can only comment on the psychological. And this is a huge psychological victory. Venezuela was a military victory, an economic victory, and a psychological victory. So far, we have another psychological victory. Everyone was talking last night about Mark Carney's speech at Davos. Nobody is talking about Mark Carney's speech at Davos anymore. All they are talking about is Trump and Greenland, Trump and Greenland, Trump and NATO, Trump, NATO, Trump, Greenland. That's all you see. As usual, he sucks up all the oxygen out. And he now reminds the world who is the real superpower here? Who is the one who's really in control here? All this stuff about Europe is going to come together and Europe is going to take on the United States with what? With what? Europe has neglected its defenses. Europe cannot survive on its own. Europe and the security of Europe is underwritten by the American taxpayer. And whether or not the American taxpayer gets a thank you from Europe, who cares? But to get constant scorn and be called the bully, the savage, the this, the that, when you are dependent on us. Europe depends on American security. Smart European politicians understand this. Smart European citizens understand that. The problem is, for so many years, nobody has dared to say that in that plain English. Trump is a man of plain English. He's not afraid to go in front of the entire crowd at Davos and say, hey, you guys depend on us. You guys live because of us. And honestly, it's nice to see. It's really, really nice to see some American leadership. No longer are we going to make all these, we're going to wax poetically about our morality and the reason we go into this country and that country. Well, it's for democracy. Well, it's nation building. Well, it's to foster this and women will vote and blah, 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 blah. Western values. No. Take out the dictator and take the oil. There's nothing wrong with America taking its own side for once. And that's that for tonight. All right. So not many comments. So I know it's late. And for some reason, I used to be able to stream on X. I guess my premium subscription ran out. I guess that's why. I have a premium subscription, but it's not the next tier you need to live stream. So I got to figure that out for the next one. But lots going on. No shortage of things to talk about. So Trump was once again the alpha in the room today at Davos, and it's really something, honestly. It's just I don't want to do too much glazing because it's like whatever, but man, oh man. And look, there's been things I've disagreed with, and there's been things that I haven't been quite happy with, but for the most part, it's just it's so refreshing. And he has very good comedic timing, and he has very, very, very good timing on everything. The CNBC guy Joe Kernan asked him today, so how long does this is this deal going to last? And Trump goes, forever. So, oh man. All right. That's all. I wanted to pop on and talk about Davos with my Davos vest on. And I hope to be back. If not tomorrow night, the next night. No, probably not tomorrow night. If I do one, it'll probably be on the weekend. I'm going to try and do maybe some shorts, like, not here in the studio, but maybe if there's some kind of development on the Greenland deal or whatever, I'll just record a video and post it on YouTube and TikTok and everything else. So please subscribe to my YouTube. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.